The history of science fiction is simply incomplete if you fail to mention the biggest science fiction book of them all. Not the best-selling, no, this isn't a video about The Hunger Games or 1984, and not necessarily the most acclaimed, even though this book has sold over 25 million copies, and it also won the Nebula and Hugo Awards. Every year, this community conducts a survey to establish what you, the global science fiction book reading family, consider to be the best, your favourite, the one that's better than all the others. This book not only finishes in first place every single year, but it also gets about double the votes that second place gets. I would bet a gallon of spice that this will forever be the biggest science fiction book in the universe. And that book is Frank Herbert's Dune. The origins of this Herculean epic are actually quite humble. Legend has it that Frank Herbert encapsulated the entire story in a single haiku, a saga in 17 syllables. Working as a journalist in 1957, he was researching an article about how the Department of Agriculture was using grass planting to control the spread of the Oregon sand dunes. The intimidating forces of nature and the majestic images of a rippling, shifting landscape planted the seeds of an idea, or at least the dramatic backdrop for a story. So before the tapestry of politics, religion, power, legacy and science fiction were applied, the aesthetics were significant. Dune had a palpable, tactile energy before it had a plot. I think it's a crucial component to its enduring success. Our most cherished science fiction and fantasy books tend to meld together in a smorgasbord of spaceships and medieval castles. Somehow Dune has a more vivid colour and texture. Although Frank was already a published author in the late 50s with The Dragon in the Sea and a few short stories, he was enthusiastic and confident enough that Dune would be a success that he dedicated the best part of the next decade to writing and researching. But the publishers didn't agree. It was rejected over and over again. Dune was a big, chunky, deep, philosophical book. The new wave was a daring time for science fiction, but maybe the world wasn't ready for Dune. John W. Campbell was. Campbell loved the story and serialised it in Analog magazine under the name Dune World. Herbert delivered the goods, and Campbell had the shop window and the connections. But still, no publisher was interested. It looked like Dune was destined to become just a series of magazine stories. But wait, trust the consumer. The science fiction reading community loved it from the very beginning, and a fan base was brewing among the public and other science fiction authors. A fella called Sterling Lanier over at Chilton Books, a car repair manual publisher, took a gamble and published Dune as Herbert intended. All of the serialised volumes together in one hardcover novel. Dune arrived in August 1965. From a financial perspective, all of those publishers that rejected Dune were right. It was very expensive to print, and it didn't sell enough copies fast enough. And outside of the niche, the mainstream critics just didn't get it. Sterling Lanier, the man who gave the book life, was fired from Chilton Books. Thank you for your service, sir. Don't worry, he was fine. He lived a long and happy life, and he was forever very humble and honoured to be part of the Dune evolution. But within a year, things started to fall into place. Sales picked up, the book made a profit, it won all of the big awards, and that underground appreciation went mainstream. That mainstream crowd are a fickle bunch. Finally, Dune became a critical and financial hit. Beyond the bookshops, it was taught in some universities, propelling it into that elite group of science fiction books that are allowed in the serious academic canon. Praise indeed. Over the next 20 years, Frank Herbert wrote 5 sequels or expansions to the universe. In the past 25 years, his son Brian and Kevin J. Anderson have released a Dune book almost every single year, all of which builds on and reinforces the legend of the original. And of course, David Lynch directed the motion picture event of 1984. Some love it, some hate it. Whatever you think of it, it again boosted the signal of the original books. It probably helped that around that time people would be saying, just read the books, they're much better than the film. Dune's legacy is now completely bomb-proof. It was already regarded as a classic and had sold millions of copies before the film and the mostly terrible Herbert Jr. Anderson books. Frank got just enough out there to keep the hardcore happy. Without Dune, there would be no Star Wars. That's not even a hot take. And now we have a new film, a critically acclaimed film. Who knows how far Hollywood will go? Maybe this is the start of a new, huge franchise. But let's get back to the point of the video. Lots of books have followed the same path. They find an audience, the snowball keeps rolling, and decades later, pretentious YouTubers talk about them. Childhood's End, Hyperion, Ender's Game, Neuromancer, The Left Hand of Darkness, all amazing books that always do really well in a survey. So why does Dune win by such a great margin? I think it's a combination of delivering the simple fundamentals of great storytelling, subverting the reader's expectations, and getting that perfect balance of complexity. It's like a majestic piece of classical music. The foundation, the rhythm, and the tempo is second nature to us. We understand stories of empires and royal houses, very human traditions. Then the orchestra adds another element, the strings. Oh, what's this? Genetic manipulation? Extreme mental abilities? Is this magic or science? The brass section, a bit louder now. This is a chosen one story. Religion in a far future setting. The Messiah made real with hard science fiction. And then the melody of the whole piece, over the top of everything else. It's actually about complex characters, trusting each other, double-crossing and manipulation. Plots within plots within plots. This is just my convoluted way of saying that Dune is the biggest science fiction book in the universe because it's really, really good, and most people agree with that statement. Pretty obvious, really. What's even more remarkable and impressive is this isn't a universally loved novel. You would expect the most popular anything to be a bit vanilla, at least on the surface, to appeal to the masses. A significant slice of the community just don't like it, and they never will. It's not science fiction's Lord of the Rings, which is fantasy's undisputed champion. I don't think it was designed to be popular. It's also fascinating to me that even among the fandom, there isn't an agreed ideal place to stop reading the series, and just how many people adore the first book but haven't read any further. In my opinion, Dune Messiah is the second half of the first act, the great table flip of the entire saga. It explores the consequences of the first book and just how heavy the head that wears the crown can be. I also think that Frank Herbert's original vision needs at least 4 books, all the way up to God Emperor of Dune, to make sense and deliver the impact of the Golden Path storyline. But what do I know? Regardless of the depth that people are willing to go, DUNE is still attracting hordes of new disciples. It's undisputed in its admiration, and I see nothing knocking it off its perch anytime soon.